أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dear students, open your books and come on page 48. Today we will start chapter 4, Magnets and Electromagnets. Today my topic of discussion is Introduction to Magnets, and at the end of this lesson you will be able to identify magnetic materials and to distinguish between magnetic and non-magnetic materials. So come towards magnetism. What is magnetism? Basically, magnetism is a mysterious force of attraction or repulsion which appears between the magnets and between magnets and materials such as iron and steel. So, magnetism is basically a force of attraction or repulsion between the two magnets or between a magnet and a magnetic material like conductor, those materials which can be influenced by the magnet. Okay, so magnetism is the phenomena or the force of attraction or repulsion between the two magnets or the two material or a magnet and a material such as iron and steel, that the force of attraction or repulsion experience there. There are many types of magnets. Some are so-called natural magnets. Some of them were so-called temporary. Some of them were permanent, and some of them were so-called electromagnets. Natural magnets are those magnets which occurs naturally, and you can find these magnets in rocks that contains lodestones, magnet magnetites, and they were found naturally in grounds. The other type is so-called temporary magnets, like soft iron. If you pass an electricity, or you should bring uh, a magnet towards these materials like soft iron, then it behaves like a magnet, or its properties will be like that of a magnet, or it behaving like a magnet. And until and unless if you remove the external magnetic field, then its magnetic property will be removed. So that's why it is so called temporary magnetic materials. Again, temporary magnetic materials are those materials in which you can pass electricity from them. It behaves like a magnet. But if you remove the external magnetic field, then it behaving like an ordinary metal, not as a magnet. Permanent magnets. Permanent magnets are those magnetic materials in which you can apply the external magnetic field, and after removing the external magnetic field, it will retain its magnetic property. These are so called permanent magnets. For example, hard iron or steel, they were heated up to 2000 or 2500 degrees centigrades. It behaves like a permanent magnets. So those materials who retain their magnetic properties after the removal of the external magnetic field, we can say that those materials are so-called permanent magnetic materials. The four type of magnetic materials are electromagnets. Electromagnets is a combination of two words, electro and magnets. So electro means charges and magnets means magnetic property. Charges means the current that will pass in through those materials. So those materials from which you can pass the electricity, it behaves like a magnet, just like your ordinary wires that are used there in your houses. These materials were so-called electromagnets. That's why the highly extensive wires that were passing over your houses, you should avoiding to go there, because if you come in the magnetic field of those wires, then they will harm you or they will attract towards them, those wires. So it will cause some damage there or some dangers there. So keep avoiding to move to the uh, highly extensive powers lines passing over your houses. So basically, there are four types of magnets: natural magnets that will occur naturally in rocks and sediments; temporary magnets that if you apply external magnetic field, if we have like a magnet, and if you remove the external magnetic field, then it will not behaving like a magnet. Permanent magnetic materials are those materials like hard iron and steel, etc. These materials, if you apply the external magnetic field, after removing the external magnetic field, it behaves like a magnet. So these are so-called permanent magnetic materials, and electromagnetic materials are those materials from which if you can pass the electricity through them, they behaving like a magnets. They were so-called electromagnets. So basically four types of magnetic materials we have. Okay, now come towards the permanent magnet. A permanent magnet is an object made from material that is magnetized and creates its own persistent magnetic field. Those materials if in which if you apply the external magnetic field and it will generate its own magnetic field, they are so called permanent magnetic material or permanent magnets. And everyday examples is a refrigerator magnet used to hold notes on a refrigerator door. Most of you using a magnet there for the refrigerator door from which you can hold some notes over there or some recipes over there, and that is so called the permanent magnet, because it is our common observation that those magnets will not lose its magnetic property, because if you once put the magnet over there, then it will be there for a very long time, and it will be behaving like a magnet for a very long time. So that is so called a permanent magnetic materials. And sometimes you uses the alphabets there, but most of the time you are using it in the form of a tablet. You can see here, this is a magnet, okay? If you can see here in this figure, this is a magnet, okay? This magnet have two poles. One is so-called north pole and the other one is so-called south pole. Each and every magnet have two poles. One is so-called north and the other one is so-called south. Okay, the magnetic field lines you can see here, these are the magnetic field lines. Okay, you can observe these lines are so called magnetic field lines. And remember one thing, that these magnetic field lines will always and always and always coming out from the north pole of the magnet, and it will enter to the south pole of the magnet. Okay, remember the word that these magnetic field lines will always coming from north pole and it will enter to the south pole. Okay, you can see here that all these lines that is coming, they were entering to the south pole and they were generating or they were coming out from the north pole. So remember these words in your mind, that always and always the magnetic field lines will coming out or will be generated there from the north pole and it will enter to the south pole. And nobody should find that the magnetic field lines should be emitted from the south pole to the north pole. So always it will generated from north and it will enter to the south pole. You can see here these are the lines, okay, and these are so-called magnetic field lines. If a magnetic material is placed between these magnetic field lines, so a force of attraction or repulsion will be experienced. Okay, if a magnetic field or a magnetic material is placed in between them, then what happens? That it will attract it, that will be attracted, or that will be repulsive by this magnet. Okay, so these are the magnetic field lines. You can observe here. These are the lines in which a force of attraction or repulsion should be experienced. Like in this diagram, you can see this is a magnet. Okay, these magnetic lines are generated from the north, and it will be interest to the south pole. Okay, and these are the lines where its force of attraction or repulsion should be experienced there. Then those lines shows those that area. Okay, up to where its force of attraction or repulsion experience. These lines should be drawn up to there. These lines are so called magnetic field. Already I told you that magnetic field is a field or a space or region around a charged body or a magnet in which a force of attraction or repulsion experienced there. We can say that space or region are so called magnetic field. I think
पीरियड के
so.
बाद
It will be
मोबाइल में अपने
quite clear to you all. Now, a piece of iron or steel which has been magnetized so that it keeps its magnetic properties is called permanent magnets. Okay. Earlier, I told you that permanent magnets are those magnets of steel or iron or hard iron that if you once magnetize that, it will persist or it will retain its magnetic property, and they are so called permanent magnets. Permanent magnets are those materials from which, if once the external magnetic field should be applied there, it will retain its magnetic property. So they were so called permanently magnet or permanent magnets. And electric currents also exerts a magnetic force. Okay, an electric current also exerts a magnetic force. We can use this fact to make magnets we can turn on and off. Like if you pass a wire from a nail and you connect that wire to the battery, then you can observe that that nail will behave like a magnet. We can say that current, if you passes an electric current from magnetic material, then what happens? It behaves like a magnet. Okay, it behaves like a magnet. These are so called electromagnet because electricity is passing from a material, and after passing the electricity from that material will behave like a magnet. So we can say that electromagnetism or electromagnetic properties will experience there. This is a so called attraction and repulsion of the two magnets. You can see here that this is one magnet, this is the N pole, and this is the south pole or S pole. This is the north pole of another magnet in south pole. Now you can see that if you bring the south pole to the north pole of the magnet, then attraction will be there because unlike poles will attract each other. Remember the words that unlike pole will always and always attract each other. And you can see here that these are the two like poles, north and north. If you bring north to the north and south to the south, okay, so they will be repel each other. So like poles will repel each other and unlike poles will attract each other. Okay, unlike poles attracts each other and like poles will repel each other. This is so called the magnetic force that can be experienced by one magnet to the other magnet. Magnetic force acts at relatively small distances. Usually, the magnetic field or the space of region around a magnet, their area will be quite small. Okay, they will act relatively small distances, usually just a few centimeters. Usually it have just only it occurs in just a few centimeters, but we can use them to a great effect. Okay, we can utilize that and we can use that for great effect. All the devices shows in the photograph you can see here. These are the devices. This is a device. This is the picture of a refrigerator that are used there in your houses. Your headphone you can see here. This is the picture of the headphone and electric drill. Okay, so all of them are utilizes the magnetic property, or all of them were uses the magnetism phenomena occur there, and as a result of that magnetism phenomena, they were usable or they were useful. So all the devices shown in the photograph below uses magnetism. How they were uses the magnetism? The fridge door uses a permanent magnet. You can see here, these are the permanent magnets. With the help of these permanent magnets, a note or a, a recipe should be hang there for a very long time. Okay, you can see here, these are the magnets which are used for holding the recipes or the notes over there. Come towards the electric drill. Okay, so the motor of the electric drill uses the electromagnets. Once you start the motor, then the magnetic phenomena will occur there, and because of the electromagnet, because the current will passing through the drill, so with the help of the magnetic phenomena or electromagnetic phenomena, the drill will work there. And the headphones use both. Okay, you can use the current and the magnetic phenomena here. So as a result, what happens that it will utilizes there, and it will give you about or it will give you it will give you loud sound, or you can you get a sound with a high beats. Now, come towards the summary of today's lecture. We were talking about the magnetism. What is magnetism? Magnetism refers to the properties and interaction of magnet. Okay, magnetism is basically the properties and interaction of magnet. That is so-called magnetism. That how interaction, how two magnets should be interact with each other, or a magnet or a magnetic material should be interact with each other. So that phenomena is so called, that is the force of attraction or repulsion between those two materials, and that phenomena is so called magnetism. Magnetic force is the interaction between two magnets. Okay, magnetic force is the interaction between the two forces, whether that will be attractive or repulsive. Magnetic force is the force of attraction or repulsion between a magnetic material and magnet, or between two magnets. A magnet is surrounded by a magnetic field that exerts the magnetic force. You can see or you can observe from the previous diagrams or pictures that the area or space around a magnet where its force of attraction or repulsion experience there, we can say that a magnetic phenomena is occur there, and we can say that surrounding or that area around the charged particles, we can say a magnetic field. The magnetic field is stronger closest to the magnet. The magnetic field will be strongest to the closest to the magnets, and it will be weaker when you move away or when you move away from the magnets. So the field will be stronger near to the magnet, and it will be weaker away from the magnets. So this is all about today's lecture. Now come towards today's assignment. This is an assignment, but with this assignment, uh, you have an interesting information that a loudspeaker contains strong permanent magnets. Okay, so you should never place a magnetic CD near a loudspeaker. It can ruin it, or it will be that will be destroyed. Because of the strong magnetic effect, the CD will be demolished there, or it will be ruined there, and as a result, that will not work after that. So keep in mind that with loudspeakers, uh, don't put the CD near to the loudspeaker. Otherwise, that CD will not be workable, or that will not be used later on. So this is all about our today's lecture. If anybody have any question regarding today's lecture, so he should